So again, everyone, thank you again for attending today. This is going to be Cognos Analytics Release 7 webinar. My name is Mark Martina. I'm a system architect and managing partner with TechD. TechD is premier implementer and partner of IBM. We specialize in anything analytics or data related, including Cognos. And the goal today is to kind of show you the latest revision of Cognos, kind of tell you the differences between 10 and 11, also known as Cognos Analytics. From what I can tell, there are two types of people who are joining today. One is people who maybe are already playing with Cognos Analytics in an older version and want to see what Release 7 has to offer. There's another group that has maybe Cognos 10 still. They haven't really seen Cognos Analytics, but they're at the point where they want to start to look into Cognos Analytics. I'm going to try and tailor the demo and the webinar to kind of target both audiences. I'm going to go over some very generic things with Cognos Analytics, talk about how it varies between Cognos 10, and also go over some very specific new features, functionality, and things I really like about Release 7. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. There's a little question section. Now, that being said, I think we should really start into it. I have a lot of slides going over everything, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just send this out to everybody in an email, like 30 plus slides to go over all the new features of Cognos Analytics. To be honest, we have a lot to kind of fit into this 1 hour webinar. So I think I want to actually just dive right into the demo of the product itself, answer questions along the way if anybody does have any questions. And if there's time, maybe we can kind of go through the slide deck later, but I'm not really expecting there to be a lot. There are really a lot of features and functionality to cover. So let's just kind of start right into it. So anybody has seen it or not seen it, this is your default login screen for Cognos Analytics. Again, Cognos Analytics is the latest revision of Cognos BI. So we used to call it Cognos BI. It's now been rebranded Cognos Analytics. Some people are on version 10, 10.1, 10.2, 10.2.2. This would be considered version 11.0.7. So Cognos Analytics Release 7. So login screen, pretty straightforward. A lot of people have single sign-on implemented, so they'll probably even never see this. If you don't, the screen you'll end up seeing. When you log in now, if you've never seen Cognos Analytics before, it's completely new. If you have seen it before, there's still a lot changed. So the overall flow is still the same, but it's much better, cleaner. It was a little choppy before, to be honest with you, when you actually kind of went through the different components. But overall, it's still the same feel. So there's not really a lot of learning curve, but it's just a better feel than it was before. That being said, let's kind of go through all the different components. First of all, it supports all the main browsers: Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer. If you're using the older tools, things like Query Studio, Analysis Studio, they're only supported in Firefox and Internet Explorer, but they still exist. All right, so everything you had in 10 can and will migrate to 11. The only thing that does not migrate over exactly is the tabs at the top that you can have in Cognos Connection, just because this interface doesn't have tabs at the top, but there are things you can create on either the left side, or now you've got this new kind of dashboard portal that pops up automatically as part of your home, in which we can add things to it as well. By default, this is how it looks. You've got your recent, so anything I've run recently, and I've got my quick reference guide, and I can actually drag and drop files in here. So if I have an Excel file or Word doc, I can actually drag it right into this dashboard and have it available for anyone. I can also change this dashboard depending on who the user is or group that they're in. So I could have, a finance dashboard for everyone in finance and an HR dashboard for everyone in HR, and I control it based upon, their different roles that they're assigned. Now, continuing with the interface. So one, if you've seen this before, this background interface is completely different. It was wasted space before. It was pretty much dead space. It was just a white background, and it did really nothing, right? So now they've actually made it alive. So now it's customizable. It actually does things. It shows all your recent, got different quick references. You can customize it any way you want. You can use an existing report or dashboard you create to have that as your new backdrop for your home screen. So I really like that a lot. That's a new feature in R7. Did not exist in any other releases of Cognos Analytics, and I think it's great. Next big change is sidebar here. It has a similar kind of look and feel to the other releases of Cognos Analytics, but it's cleaner, and it's a little bit more intuitive. So one, it's got a home. So no matter where I go, if I click on home, it'll bring me to the screen I'm at now. Nice, never had it before, and it's kind of like comfort food. It's very easy to click on home, and it brings you back to the place you started at. I think it makes things a lot easier for the users. The next button down is same as the other revisions of Cognos Analytics, and that's your search. So if you're looking for anything at all, you just type it in, and it automatically brings back anything that has that name in it. You can do filters on it. You can actually save searches. It's a great feature. There was search capability in Cognos 10. You had to set it up, configure it. Some administrators did it, a lot did not. And so search really wasn't an option for a lot of people. And it was harder to use. The search works automatically out of the box. If you install Cognos Analytics, the search automatically works. There's nothing for an admin to configure above and beyond. All right. So it works great. Same spot as it was in the earlier versions of Cognos Analytics. No change. Next is My Content. My Content is essentially your My Folders. All right. So if you're going from 10 to 11, Cognos Analytics, everything goes over, including people's My Folders. But instead of you having that little folder at the top that says My Folders, it now is here under My Content. But what's nice about it is the folder structure inside it is unchanged. So if I had something in pre-R7 and I click on it, it'll show me everything below it. That folder structure that's in 10 will be identical in Cognos Analytics. So it makes a learning curve a lot easier for a user, especially a user who just runs reports, doesn't create reports. They'll go in, they'll realize that My Content was in My Folders, Team Content was the shared content, and they'll find all the reports pretty easily. Next is, again, your team content. This is the content that's available to everyone. And again, this will come over exactly from Cognos 10 or from previous versions of Cognos Analytics. And you might notice here that the look and feel is a little bit different if you've seen Cognos Analytics before. It was a little choppy before. It kind of split out. Now it flows better, has a better feel to it. So if I go into here and then I go to another folder, it stays, it has a nicer look, feel. I can adjust the size of it, which I could not do before. The icons have changed slightly, but the biggest thing is how it works and how it feels. It's not very choppy. There's no lag. There was a lag before, which a lot of people did not like, and that lag is completely gone now. And again, if I want to go back to my old content, I can just click on here, Team Content, and it brings me back up another level. If I go and do something like Analytics, and I go into Samples, it shows me all that. And again, what's nice is, let's say I leave, I go to My Content, and then I come back. It remembers where I was and shows me that exact same location again. So the interface was designed to be a lot more user-friendly than it ever was before. And I think we have maybe a question or two here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, and so somebody wants to know, if we're just going to go over Cognos Analytics or show some of the differences. Yeah, so my goal is to, again, there's two target audiences here. There are people who are using 10, and there are also people who are, on 11 but older versions. So I'm trying to show the differences between, both of those. And what did I just click on here? I'm not really sure. Let's go back to my home. Okay, so again, the big difference is now it's not really as choppy as it was before. And so that's something that's definitely been improved. Again, now we've got our recents. Again, same as with the other versions, but again, it's just a nicer interface. You can slide things over. slide things back again, and it's not choppy, and it doesn't have the tiles that constantly slide over the panes and slide over again and again and again with R7. Another question is, what happens to your Cognos connection folders? Again, if it's the My folders and your regular main content, that's going to show up under My Content and Team Content. If you have any other tabs you created, those tabs will still exist. They just don't have like a place at the top here because there is no place. If anybody has specific questions about that, that's like an entire subject matter for a lot of people. And we go over that. Next question is upgrades. If you're on 6 and you want to go to 7, you don't have to uninstall. You install on top of. But I honestly back a few things up in that folder structure because I've done that recently. It's made changes. Any customizations you've done, a lot of them kind of disappear. I had a third-party provider that didn't seem to work, and also my gateway configuration didn't seem to work after the upgrade. So you're going to have to go in there and do some tweaks. It's not going to be a 20-minute upgrade. It's kind of like adding a fix pack. That was a good question. Let's see the rest of the questions here. We got a couple more questions. Let me see. Can you sort content to have folders at the top? That's a good question as well. There is a content sort now. So if I go into, let's say, My Content, there is a sort option. I can sort by name. I can sort by modified date. I don't believe you can sort it any other way besides that. At least that's for now. Also, another thing from an interface different for people going from 10 to 11. Instead of all those icons on the right, now what happens is you can actually just go in here and there's just 3 little dots for doing more. And so it gives you a menu that pops up whenever you click on something of what you can and cannot do. And the way it works is that menu is customized depending on the object. So the philosophy in Cognos Analytics is instead of having all the buttons there and then only be able to push the ones that are appropriate, only what is actually valid shows up. So again, it's designed to make the user experience a lot simpler and easier. So we kind of went through all the options at the top. Now let's go down to the bottom. The next one is manage. So if you're an administrator, this is kind of where you would go. And under the administrator console, even with R7, there really isn't a lot of change. If you're going from 10 to 11, there's new features, new functionality, but it still has the same look, the same feel as it did with Cognos 10. To be honest, even a little bit with Cognos 8. So that's still there. So from an admin point of view, you're not going to have a lot of challenges, but there are new features and new functionality, and that's really where your learning curve is going to come into place. So that still exists, but then there's other things that have been added. Example, things like licensing. One thing that's really nice is they actually have a license kind of checker built into it now. And the way it works, and some of the changes they've made in R7 is that the actual user groups match up to the actual names of the license that you buy. Right? So you had author before, query user, and all these different, roles, but that had absolutely nothing to do with, what you actually purchased from IBM. So there's really 4 different licenses IBM sells, and this actually shows you what those licenses are. So there's an administrator with access to everything 100%. There's an Analytics Explorer, which essentially is anything except administration. So framework manager development, dynamic cube design, creating any reports you want, any studio you want. Analytics user is just a little bit of a step down. So they can create any dashboards, any reports, but they can't can't use Framework Manager, they can't create dynamic cubes. That's where most users are pretty much at, to be honest with you. And then information distribution is a user who really can't run anything or do anything. All they can do is have information sent to them. All right. And what's nice as well is if I actually click on the little arrow here, it'll actually tell me who has access to be an administrator. So it's myself, Matt Tyler, but it also tells me groups. So it only goes down one tier. So I have an administrator role in Active Directory. So that administrator role could have 1, 2, 5, 50 people in it. So it doesn't quite show you the full list, but it gives you a great idea and a great starting point, something that's much better than it was before. So again, there's a lot of other things that we can do inside Manage. I don't know if I'm going to go into all of them now, but we can always come back to it. But one thing I'd like to make note is New Job is actually under Manage. That's something that was in Cognos Connection before, and it's a little bit of a challenge for people to find. So you can give somebody access to Manage, but not have them be an administrator. I mean, something like a New Job would then be an option for them. Next is the new. So whenever you want to create something, the way it works in Cognos Analytics is you go to new. And they try to make everything simpler, a little bit more streamlined for everybody. So instead of having all these studios, Query Studio, Analysis Studio, Report Studio, like Workspace Advanced, which is almost like a studio, they're trying to make everything simple and streamlined. So I can either create a report, create a dashboard, create a story. A story is kind of a group of dashboards that kind of storyboard out kind of your data. Next is a data module. There's been a lot of changes to the data module in this version that I like a lot. And so the data module is almost like a package, except instead of creating it with Framework Manager, you're actually creating it inside the web interface. So instead of installing client tools on everybody's PC, you can actually create a data module right inside Cognos. And you can have users do it as well if you want to. You don't have to, but it's an option. Then other pretty much contains whatever is left. Workspace, drill throughs. I believe I'm actually using Chrome. If I switch from Chrome to Firefox, and I go into the same section, I have two browsers open, so I'm just swapping from one to the other. And I go to other, you'll see that Query Studio, Analysis Studio, Event Studio, they all show up. But in Chrome, they do not, because that's all that's supported in Chrome. So if you are a Query Studio or Analysis Studio user, you're going to have to use IE, you're going to have to use Firefox. Somebody asked if you could have a My Favorites, which we consider different than recent. There isn't, like out of the box. In theory, you can customize your home screen to do that. Another thing you could do as well is you can create a shortcut to those reports that are your favorites and put them in your My Content. But to be honest, if they're your favorites, are most likely going to be in the recent anyway, but that is definitely one option that you have. Can you change the package via the properties? I'll take a look at that. I'm not sure. Folder report description. I'll have to click that as well. Can users see what's actually scheduled to run? They can, assuming you give them access to it. So when they're managed, there's activities. It shows you what activities are actually there. And again, that comes under manage. So you have to give the users access to that. There's a lot of other features and functionality. I'm just going to go into some of those right now that you might not want all the users to have. So when it comes to moving from 10 to 11 or even being on Cognos 11, Cognos Analytics, you're going to have to kind of take a step back and see, you know, out of all these different features I have, all these extra features that exist, what do I want all the users to have and not have, and how do I want to roll it out? Usually there's different sets of users. You've got your power users, and you've got users who just kind of click on a few things here and there. You might want to be selective on what you allow them to have. Let me get into some of those other features now. So one thing that's actually very powerful too, in addition to, you know, report dashboards, and I'll go into those as well, you can upload a file directly into Cognos. So it's something new with Cognos Analytics. They kind of attempted it in 10.2.2, and it really wasn't that good. It's much better now. So let's just show you how that works. So if I want to go and upload a file, it looks on my local drive, and I can pick any file I want. So I've got my customer analysis. I click open, and the file now automatically opens up in, you know, for you to kind of view inside Cognos Analytics. And really, you can pick and choose what columns you want or don't want very easily, and then they appear or disappear. And then really all you have to do is just kind of make sure that whatever it thinks is a measure is actually a measure. So state is obviously not a measure. Lifetime value is a measure because that's something I'm going to do a comparison of. Anything you add, subtract, divide, or compare is typically a measure. Income would be a measure, and it actually does a really good job typically of getting all this down. But look at it, looks like everything is all right. Quantity is going to definitely be a measure. Claim amount is going to be a measure. So I can just hit OK. And then what happens is it automatically uploads. It automatically uploads right into my content. Now, since it's in my content, only I have access to it, and I would have to move it somewhere else. But that's where it is right now. Let me see a couple more questions here. Again, I'm going to try to say the difference between 10 and 11, and also the difference between 6 and 7. I'm going to try and combine them both here. Unfortunately, if you already are a Cognos Analytics 6 expert, some of this will be a little redundant for you, but I'm definitely going to highlight a lot of the new features as well. Everything from Workspace Advanced comes over, but it now comes over as normal report. If you had different profiles in Workspace Advanced, Workspace Advanced doesn't exist anymore, neither does Report Studio. They're all combined into one. So if you have some kind of profile for that of limited functionality, everybody's going to have full functionality out of the box. But you can go in there and you can customize it, limit people on what they can and cannot do. So let's kind of take a look at this. So now I've uploaded a file, and what do I want to do with it? Well, if I click on my little dots, it tells me exactly what I can do with it. So I can update the file. And update the file simply allows me to go and take another flat file and upload it. So let's say a month goes by, I have more actuals, I can upload it right to the system. And then I create a dashboard. Now for people who've never seen a dashboard before, they're very simple, very easy to use. For people who've seen it in R6, there's actually a lot of new features and ones I like a lot. So go in here, we pick what kind of template we want. And you'll see right at the top here, if you're an R6 user, that the filters is actually something that's new and also very popular. Also, the navigation paths. So if we take a look at here, we'll see that this is all the data that we had pulled over. Right? And if I want to just bring something in and drag it right onto my dashboard, I can. So let's say I want gender and income. I can just drag it right over. It shows me gender and income. For some reason, it's not showing me my graph very well. Try that again with the value. It's not working right with the browser. Let's just kind of try that again. To kind of bouncing between browsers. I think that's causing me some problems. But let's go in here and just create a brand new dashboard. And I can pick, some type of predefined template. And again, I see whatever I uploaded, and let's say I've got, again, let's try gender and income and see how it works here. There we go. I'll go off with that browser a little bit. Let's close it. So again, it's very simple to just take and drag something right from the left right into your pane. Now, for some differences between 6 and release 7, one thing is the navigation path, which I actually like a lot. So let's say we've got things like policy type and policy level. One's a child is the other. I can just go into my drill path and create a brand new one. And again, it's very easy to do. Just have to kind of know the data a little bit. So if I want to go from policy type to policy level, I can do that. And then I hit OK. And now I just created a drill path. So drill up, drill down, kind of like you can in the cube. Now I can do something as simple as a flat file I just uploaded. I can also do it with, any type of database connection I have, whether it's DB2, Oracle, SQL Server that I'm pulling data from. Now I've got my drill path. Now let's say I go in here and I pick policy type and I pick total claim amount. Right? I drag that right over. So now I've got a chart with my different corporate auto, my different policy types. Well, if I want to drill down on it, I can just right click, and there's a little icon there that says drill down. So now I go down a level, and so I started at policy type, and now I'm at policy level. So it's that simple to do, and that's completely new in R7. It's easy, it's simple, and honestly, it works great. If I want to go back up, just as easy. I can just right click on anything here. There's another icon that says go back. Now let's say I want to filter. Well, I can easily filter as well. I can filter based on gender. I can filter based on policy types. Let's say we want to filter on gender. I can just take my gender and I can bring it up and add it to my all tabs or into this tab alone. Again, that's another feature. Before, when you did filters, it was usually tab specific. Now, if I create multiple tabs, like this one, I can call it, main. This one, I create a brand new tab with a different look to it. I can rename this as well. Second tab, not very intuitive, but you get the idea. So I come in here and I can drag over different data, and the filtering would work very simply. So now I've dragged everything over. If I click on it, it gives me all my different options, and now I get to say I only want females. So now you'll see that this is just showing me females, and then the values for here actually dropped because all the females, all the males are actually moved from it. Good question. Where is this file stored? So when you upload data, it's stored locally on the file system in what's called a Parquet file. Parquet, it's part of the Adobe kind of family, not Adobe, Tomcat, Apache family, and it's designed to be very fast interface, so you can actually look up Parquet files if you want. It'll give you more details on them, but it's designed to be very quick file type, and so everything you upload gets stored. So when you actually want to go from, Cognos 10 to Cognos Analytics, you're probably going to want more disk space than you had before, assuming you allow users to, to upload values and data. Let me kind of continue a little bit more. I think there's been a bunch of questions. Let me see if I can answer a few more of them right now. Can you limit the file size users can upload? Yes, you can. It's actually a really good question. So what you can do is, if you wanted to, you can leave your dashboard and back to your welcome screen, and under Manage, there is something called Configuration. And if you click under System, It shows you the exact location of the files that are uploaded. You can encrypt them if you wanted to. In this case, by default, it is. You can also limit the amount of data a user uploads. You limit it in 2 different ways. How much they can upload in one shot, and also the maximum that they're allowed to upload is. 100 meg is actually a lot. And if you look at an Excel file, it's very rare you have an Excel file that's 100 meg. But 10, 20, and 30 meg are pretty common. So, it's very possible if users uploading files continuously and they're not really cleaning anything out, they could hit the 500 meg mark. But the 100 meg is actually really pretty large, I think. I haven't really run into any issues with that. What components have been upgraded? Well, with this release, kind of everything has pretty much been upgraded at this point. Lifecycle Manager should be upgraded. PowerPlay is now 11. So if you're on R6, you're downloading 10.2.2 version of Transformer. Now it's version 11. So it's brand new version. PowerPlay Studio, if you're still a PowerPlay Studio user, it's now integrated because PowerPlay Studio is now 11. Before, you'd have to install 10.2.2 and kind of hook it together. Metric Studio, I believe, still, it's here. I don't know if they've really made any changes to that at all. So pretty much that's one of the big differences between 6 and 7 was they upped PowerPlay and Transformer. Is a navigation path available for relational model packages? It is for anything with a module. So we're going to go into modules next. In modules, you can create the drill path. And as for data sources, you can have pretty much anything, including packages. So that would be one way that you can create that actual drill path. So let's actually go over data modules, how they work a little bit as well, and show you some of the new features with that. So let's go into here, and under new, let's upload one more file. Very simple file. It's got customer ID and churn, which is the number. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to upload it. And I'm going to just close this dashboard for now. And I'll close this browser as well. So I uploaded 2 files now. And the reason why I did that is because I want to join these files together. So a very common task is joining files together. This is not new in Cognos Analytics R7, but the interface to do it is actually a lot cleaner, a lot simpler, a lot better. So it's definitely something that we need to revisit. So what you do is say I have 2 files. All right, very simple. And what I can do is if I click on it, I create a dashboard out of the files I upload, and that's about it. For me to do anything more than that, what I've got to do is I've got to kind of wrap them together in an umbrella, and that umbrella is called a data module. Again, data module is like a package, but it's one that's created in the actual interface. So if I go new data module, this is the screen I come into. Overall, it's very similar to the earlier versions of Cognos Analytics. Again, it's a little bit different, kind of nicer, cleaner screen, easier to read. So they clean everything up a little bit, which is really nice. But then let's say I go in here and I want to actually create a brand new data module. Well, what can I do with that? Well, first of all, what sources do I have? So I create a data module based on a data module, which could get kind of hairy. I would probably avoid that as a best practice, though you can do it. Because in theory, you could have one data module linked to another, and if anything happens to a data module in the middle there, everything after that's kind of in trouble. That's, to be honest, a lot of issues that Click users have. And you don't really want to start bringing that stuff in here. So I would probably avoid that if you can. Data servers is your next one, and that's essentially a direct connection to your database. So I have direct connections to maybe Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, Netezza, DB, any of those data sources. I can directly connect to them and start mapping them inside my module. Next one is what we're going to do, which is upload files. So those are the 2 files that we uploaded. After that, there's data sets. What a data set is, data set's actually pretty slick. If you're creating a dashboard, you want that dashboard to be pretty much instantaneous. So rather than running it continuously off your database. Maybe it's fast, maybe it's slow. A data set allows you to pull data right into Cognos from your data source. So let's say you have a slow performing warehouse, or maybe you have data in 2 or 3 different data repositories, or maybe it's coming from a system that's not designed to be reported off of, that just has things very dispersed and as always is slow. Well, I can take that data and pull it right in the Cognos, scheduled to run every night, and that's your data set. And so instead of running now off my actual data source, I can run off this data set. And some things that can take minutes or hours now can take fractions of seconds to run. The data sets are very powerful. Again, they're only in Cognos Analytics. And then packages are your standard packages that you will create in Framework Manager. And Framework Manager, again, is still around in Cognos Analytics. Let's select here uploaded files. And if I go and look here, these are all the uploaded files I have access to. So security is taken into account. Let's say I select the 2 I just uploaded. If I click on them, they automatically show up on the left. And I can hit done. And now this is what the screen looks like. So each one of these data files shows me all the columns in there, just like they would if I'm looking at it in Excel. Shows all the columns that I've uploaded. Now what I can do is I can pick and choose what I want. If I'm picking a data source like DB2, it'll show me tables, and in tables it'll show me the columns. So each uploaded file kind of acts like a table. What I can do here is I can actually take these, and again, new interface with R7. Up here, you've got a different icon. So the first one is validation. The next one is data grid, and then the other one is, the last one is your diagram, which we're going to use now. What I can do is I can literally drag the files onto this diagram. And what I'm doing is I'm essentially bringing these in, and I'm going to actually join them together. So the way I do that is I just click on them. I can hit the control character, control key, and I can just right click. So right clicking works in Cognos Analytics. It works pretty well. I can go to properties of it, or what I can do is I can just create a relationship. And now this viewer is totally different, but a lot different than it would be with R6. And going from 6 to 7, this interface, in my opinion, is massively better than the one in 6. A lot of things they did with R7 is they added more features, more functionality, but they also cleaned up a lot of what's out there. So everything I'm doing now, I could have done in 6, but the interface to do it, it's easy to read. It's easier to actually make sure things work. It's just a better interface. They've done a lot of cleaning up. It's kind of the best way to describe it. So now I've got my 2 tables I selected, all right, and they both join by customer ID. So if I click on customer ID for both, what it does is it shows me an example of what customer ID is. Right? And then what I can do is I can select my joint type. So I can make it so it's an air joint. Everything that matches in both comes in. I can do a left outer join, a right outer join. I can also do filtering if I wanted to right here. Let's say I want to do an outer join, and then or a left outer join. So maybe I don't have everything in table 2 that I have in table 1. So this will make sure that I'm not missing any rows. And then what you do is now there's something called match that didn't exist before in R6. And match actually works out really well. So if I click on match, what it does is it literally shows you the 2 tables and how they match up. And if I click on refresh, it'll show me the data. Now this is very important because sometimes there's a mismatch, right? I either picked the wrong column, or maybe there's different data types inside the system, or even like the file I've uploaded. So maybe one's an integer or a number, the other one is a character field, and they don't actually join up. Well, this literally visually shows you where they join and what data comes back. So you could actually do a kind of a sniff test right here inside the join interface. Again, massively better in my opinion than R6 was. I hit OK, and now I've got my 2 flat files that are connected together. And if I want to save it, I can save it. I can also rename my data module. So I click over here. I create calculations. I can validate. I go to the properties of it. And again, there's also navigation paths. So if somebody was asking about navigation paths, can you add those? So we showed you how to do navigation paths with a flat file inside a dashboard. right? Well, that's only for that flat file. If I want to create navigation paths on things that are a little bit more enterprise, so a data module would be the way to do that. Data module, I can create my different navigation paths right here, and they're for everybody to use, and they're consistent. Now, in this case, I'm using flat files. In real life, I'll probably use flat files, but I'll probably also use things like packages or tables right out of my database. Or if I wanted to, I can come in here and add a navigation path, and it's the exact same interface as before. If I want to create the same one I had before, really simple, policy type, policy level, I hit OK, and now I've got a navigation path. You can also create calculations right in here if you wanted to. And I can also take a look at all my different values. I can do filters, I can rename things, again, create different navigation paths, create data groups, I can group different things together. So all these different features are now available. There's some newer ones, and it's a lot slicker and easier to use, I believe, than 6 was. So if you're on 6 now, I'm probably going to recommend you go to 7. I've got a lot of clients who are on 6, at least from a test point of view, some that are there from a production point of view, and they're all going to be going to 7 pretty quickly. If you've already made the boost, the jump to Cognos Analytics, 6, and there's an interim fix 1 for release 6. A lot of good features, but there are definitely a few bugs in 6, a few more than I kind of wanted to see. And so this cleans up the interface, gives you more features and functionality, and gives you a little bit more stability, I think, than 6 had. So again, there's a lot of different things I can do in my data module. I'm going to hit save, and I can call it anything I want. I can put it anywhere I want. Remember, if it's in your team content or your my content, only you can see it. So it's my TechD data module, and I hit save. And now I'm done. I can just leave. Go back to home. And let me see if I can answer a few more questions while we're here. With data sets, is the limit 100 meg too, or can we set up another limit? Data sets, to my knowledge, I don't know if there are any limits. I haven't actually heard about limits for data sets. Data sets are not the exact same as your file uploads. Your file uploads are manually done. A data set is something that you'll end up creating off of a module or a package, and it'll be scheduled. To my knowledge, there isn't a limit, but you have to remember that you're going to take summarized data. You're not going to bring your entire warehouse in, so you don't want necessarily gigs and gigs of data as part of a data set. Just think of it, if you've got a billion records in a table and you're doing some type of trend analysis or whatever on your report or dashboard, you're probably only going to have the actual core data that's summed up. It's probably a couple thousand rows. A couple thousand rows is going to be a few meg, not like gigs. There are a pretty good amount of questions here. I'm going to try and answer a few more, but I think what I'll end up having to do is, after this webinar is over, a couple things are going to happen. I'm going to send out the slide deck, and I'm also going to upload this video so people can actually revisit it. But I'm also going to then answer individual questions and put that into a kind of a formatted email for everybody. This way you get the exact answers you want. Because there are a pretty good amount of questions, which is great, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to answer them all in the time allocated. So now we just created our data module. So what does that mean? Well, if we take a look at it, so you can tell the difference between our files. I've got a folder, I've got uploaded files, and I've got a data module. You can tell by the icons. Also, I click on the dots, I can do a lot more with it now. So what can I do? Well, I could create a dashboard before, but now I can also create a report, or I can create a data set. Not a lot of benefit of creating a data set out of 2 files I've uploaded. But one of the uses of a data module that I find to be excellent is that I can create a package that has all this different data in it. But let's say the business users want to create a hierarchy that they customize on their own. Well, what they can do is they can have that in a flat file, upload it in the Cognos, attach it to the package in a data module, and then start using that data module for the reporting. And if somebody changes a position, somebody moves around, they have to adjust the hierarchy. the business side, without the use of IT's involvement, can change that flat file, upload it, and now all the reports, all the dashboards are automatically adjusted to that new hierarchy that was uploaded, right? So with that, maybe performance is a little bit bad since you have part of your data in your warehouse, part of your data in Cognos itself. Might not be, but if it is, you can actually create a data set right off of that. That's an excellent reason to create data set. Maybe your warehouse is very fast, but you've got data from different locations that you're pulling in. That's a great use case. But so I come in here and I create a dashboard like I did before. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll create a report. So again, same interface as before. I create a predefined template or do it free form. Now, if I look in here, what do I see? Well, I've got my two flat files. Now they're joined behind the scenes, but I don't know how they're joined. So it's kind of just like a package with Framework Manager. They're joined, but nobody knows how unless you actually go to the source. But also, if I go to navigation path, the navigation path I created inside the data module now shows up within the dashboard. All right, so somebody was asking that question before, can I put this in my package? I don't think you can put it in a package, though I will double check that, but what you can do is you can put it in a data module, and that data module could be attached to a package. So data module is a great umbrella for combining things that might not have been able to combine before. Again, an example would be a package, and also maybe some flat files that are uploaded for extra data that isn't contained inside your warehouse. So now I can do exactly what I did before. I can bring over things like gender. I can bring over total claim amount. I can drag them right in. Everything works the same way it did before. I can bring over policy type. And if I want to, I can just add it to my other chart. Policy type now automatically adds. One thing that's very nice too, you can just keep dragging things on top of the chart. If I don't like the chart the way it is, I can always change it. I can just click on that top right, and I can change my visualization. And I can make it a different type of chart. I can make it different points. I can also make it something as simple as a table. Right? So if I want to actually see the values, I can do that too. So there are the values. If I want to put in some type of filter, I can do that. Right? And if I click on policy type, I still have the ability to drill down. And so I drill down, and now it shows me the next level, or I can go back up. And again, it's a lot smoother than it was in 6. A lot of this was around in 6, not the navigation path stuff at the top left, but that feature of different drill paths did exist, but it wasn't that, it didn't flow well. It's a little choppy, and things just tend to work and are a lot cleaner now in 7. That's definitely one of the big differences that you're going to see. It just has a better feel to it, in my opinion. Things were definitely choppy before, and they're really not now. So I think the user experience is going to be better. So if anybody's live in 6, obviously, you want to upgrade your development environment first, your non-prod environment, but I would probably start looking at R7 right away. I definitely would. And if you're anything before 6, or, I didn't recommend anything before 5, but if you're on 5 or 6, I would definitely look at this right away. So again, that's kind of your warehouse, your dashboards. We can go into more details with it, but I probably want to kind of just at least hit on everything a little bit today while we're here. So if I close this guy down, I don't know why I have that keep popping up. What is that there? Get rid of that guy. And then what I can do is I can go back to my data module, and what I can do is I can actually create a report. When you come in to create a report, it gives you different templates as well. I can create a normal one. I can create an active report. Active reports still exist. I can have different themes if I wanted to. If I just want to create a blank report, no problem. There's all of our data right here from our data module. And what I can do is I can just click on the little plus. And it's just kind of a quick start when you create a new report. So if I want to come in here and I want to create a list report, I can do that. I can name it anything I want. And again, this has a very similar feel to Report Studio. It also has a similar feel to all the other versions of Cognos Analytics. Really hasn't been a lot of change to this, but again, it is a lot easier to read. It's a lot cleaner. If you look at it, the font is different. It's a little bit sharper. The icons are a little bit better, and it has a nicer feel to it. And I just really think that's important, so I'm kind of emphasizing that. But again, if I want to bring over a few different columns, I can do that as well. I can just drag them in. Automatically summarizes everything, and just like before, if I want to run something, I run it HTML, PDF, Excel data, and CSV. Again, the difference between Excel and Excel data is Excel data has no formatting, Excel does. But again, if you're coming from 10 to 11, one of the big differences is that when you do run something and it is in HTML form, it's no longer dead, right? This is kind of a little weak of example, so let me actually close out of this one. And let me add something else to it as well. We'll add the policy type. Right. And let me run this as HTML. Not a ton of data, but something better than once before. So one thing that you can do, which you couldn't do before, is you can sort. Right? So if I click on any of these different columns, I can sort things without rerunning the report. Works really fast because it's just the data that you're seeing, because it's all pre-run. There's certain things I don't like. If I want to get rid of special auto, I can click on it, filter out, and exclude special auto, and it just disappears. I can also navigate, right? So I go and it actually shows me the different types. So policy type to policy level. That's something that's new in R7 and works really well. So just because you run it in HTML doesn't mean that it's kind of static and you can't do anything anymore. You can go back and forth, make a bunch of different changes. And then when I'm done with it, well, I'm done. And I just leave, and I'm back to my main report again. And I can save it just like I do anything else. Save as. Check the report. And so now it's saved. And if I want, I can go back to my welcome page. I can go to my content again, and I can see the report I saved there. And again, one other thing that we can do is I've got my data module. Let me go with my data report. If I look at this, I create a report view. Some of this stuff actually didn't exist in R5. It kind of showed up in R6. So to create shortcuts, to report views, they kind of disappeared for a while. They did show up again, which is great. All that, again, comes over. Sharing things is kind of giving it a direct URL look to it. You can go to the properties, and it shows you the different properties. In here is also where you would schedule something. So I can create a new schedule here, so users create different schedules. And the only real main feature I don't think we've gone over yet really is create data set. If I want to do that, I just go create data set. And then what happens is, and this looks exactly the same way with a package, what you do is you kind of just pick and choose columns, right? So if I wanted gender, that's great. If I wanted policy type, policy level, and I wanted a few measures, I can drag all of that in. And then when I save it, I can save it, or I can save and load data. So I do save and load data. It does exactly that. Again, I'm pulling from flat files. This is just an example, but this would pull from your database too. And it might run in a couple seconds. It might run in an hour, depending on what you're actually pulling in and how fast your database is. But the theory is you only pull in the columns that you need. So maybe there's a dashboard that you're looking for, and your package might have 100, 200, 500, 1,000 columns of data in it. When you pull in 10, 20, or 30 that you need, your data set goes from a billion records to 50,000, 20,000. And now that I brought that over, I can do whatever I want off that. So let me just kind of close out of here. One thing too is if you haven't seen it, the interface at the top, that pull down, kind of new. So it's a way of kind of navigating between all your different reports that you have open or whatever you have open at the time. So I go back to my content, and there's my data set. Again, you can tell I've got a different icon. And now when I click on it, I create a dashboard right off the data set. You cannot create a report, only a dashboard, right? So if you have certain reports, probably not going to do it for you. So if I create a dashboard, I take a look, there's my dashboard, there's my values. I can take them all, drag them right in. I want to put a filter on there. I can put like a dynamic filter. So I can toggle between. If I want to get rid of something, I can do that as well. So that's the difference. Now, there are no navigation paths. You'd have to create them. So let's say my original source had a navigation path, which it did. It doesn't come across, so you know that. Let me see if I can take a couple more questions here. What else we have? Can you run JavaScript in interactive mode? I think the reason why they have the interactive mode is to kind of avoid JavaScript now. JavaScript is supported, but probably not in that interactive mode. I think that will cause you some problems. So I would say no for that. Is the data set static or does it update? When you pull it in, it's as of that moment in time. And what you would do is you would schedule it to run periodically. So let's say, every night at 1 o'clock in the morning, you would pull in new data into your data set. And then once it's pulled in, it is static. It is unchanged until you pull it in again. Kind of way it would work if you have a transformer cube. Whenever you build that transformer cube, it's data as of that time. The exact same thing with the data set. This webinar is going to be available as recording, probably not today, but most likely by Tuesday it'll be online, and I'll send out a link to everybody so they can get to the webinar, no problem. So if you're using a data set, you're pulling right from your database, your data warehouse, and you only run it once and you never run it again, that will make that data set essentially static. So if you wanted, kind of an interesting question, if you wanted a point in time of your database, and some people actually do that, I've had that request in the past, especially if they're trying to transition off of cubes to maybe dynamic cubes or something like that. A transformer cube is a moment in time. If people will actually have month-end cubes, year-end cubes, and they'll leave them out there for historical purposes because it's kind of a snapshot of that moment in time. A data set would act the same way. So if you created a data set, maybe you put a date at the back of it just for usability's sake. When you name it, it could be in time, kind of pointing in time for that data. Let me see, we're using Cognos 11.5. Currently, users without admin privilege are not able to see the schedule activities. How about this issue in 11.0.7? That's from Oscar. Oscar, let me double check that. Users can see anything that they've scheduled. I'm not sure if they can easily see things that other people have scheduled. There's most likely some tweak you can do to get that to work if it's not that way out of the box. I will double check that and I will get you an answer. If not today, probably tomorrow or Tuesday at the very latest. The data set files are stored on the server. I've never tried to access them directly, but they are there. Can you share the URL for the folder to see the folder? And every user create data. Any user can create data sets, assuming you give them that permission. From a licensing point of view, everybody's allowed to do it. The question is, do you let them do it? And that's kind of an internal thing for you guys. If somebody wanted to see, what the actual URL would look like. So here's a URL to, let's say, a report. And you want to embed it somewhere, it actually gives you the iframe code to do that. If you want to share it, there's the actual URL string that you can actually send to somebody as well. All right, I think we are past our 2 o'clock time. Again, I tried to answer a lot of the questions that were sent. There were actually a lot, so that's actually great. It's good to see people are really into the newer version. Again, if you're on 5 or you're on 6, I see really no reason to not go to 7. If you're on 10, 7 is probably a great starting point. Can you export a dashboard into PDF or Excel? You can print it, and if you print it, you can print it as PDF. But I'll list out exact details on that as well. There are a good amount of questions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the questions together into an email. And I'm going to send the email to everyone as well. And what I'll do is I'll do the best I can to answer all those questions for everybody. I think that's it for our webinar now. I really appreciate everybody showing up. There was a lot to cover. That's why I pretty much didn't go through the slide deck at all. I knew there was. We went through things pretty fast as well. If anybody needs kind of a one-on-one demo, we can definitely do that. And keep an eye out for an email with a couple different things. The slide deck presentation that lists all the new features, which I did not go through because of timing, and also links to this actual online webinar, and also a Q&A kind of Excel file with answers to all these different questions everyone has. So that's about it. I really appreciate everybody coming to this. It was a little bit delayed, unfortunately, but again, I do overall like R7 a lot better than 6, and definitely better than 5. So I would recommend people start playing with it in their non-prod environments right away. If anybody has any more specific detailed questions, we can take that offline as well. Feel free to shoot me an email at any time. And that's about all. Everyone, thank you, and I really appreciate you showing up.